I'll never forget, when I got to be a member, that was always my dream when I was a kid. I was to be on the Grand Ole Opry, and just when they said, you got to celebrate 50 years, I thought, I'm not even 50 years old.
Exactly.
Country music is more than steel guitars and cowboy hats. It's soul, struggle, and storytelling. But according to Dolly Parton, the genre she helped build is being torn apart from the inside. After decades of biting her tongue, the Queen of Country is finally sounding the alarm. In recent interviews and behind-the-scenes whispers, Dolly has hinted at 5 specific country stars who, in her words, turned the genre into a gimmick. This isn't just about personal taste, it's about legacy, roots, and respect. If Dolly's calling you out, you've crossed a line. So who are the 5 stars she's subtly exposing? Let's find out. Dolly Parton has always been the peacekeeper of country music. While the genre evolved, fractured, and sometimes feuded, she remained its radiant, constant, gracious, diplomatic, and always kind. She praised newcomers and legends alike, from Merle Haggard to Casey Musgraves, never caught up in the noise. But recently, something cracked that polished exterior. In a private backstage moment after a tribute show, Dolly allegedly turned to a fellow country icon, shook her head, and said softly but firmly, "This isn't country anymore, it's just branding." That one sentence sparked an uproar in Nashville's tight-knit circles. It wasn't just a passing remark, it was Dolly's first real critique of the genre's direction. Soon after, in an interview with the Tennessean, she said, "I love the genre we created, but sometimes I hardly recognize it anymore." That wasn't nostalgia talking, it was heartbreak. Though she didn't call out names, those close to the scene say Dolly was absolutely referring to a specific group of modern stars, artists who've traded grit for glitter, lyrics for likes, stories for streams. She sees it as a cultural betrayal, not just of music, but of the working-class voices country was built on. Dolly isn't chasing headlines. She's raising alarm bells. The woman who once said she'd never criticize another artist has finally drawn a line. This wasn't a rant, it was a reckoning, a warning from the very soul of country music that the genre is slipping away, and if no one speaks up, it might be lost for good. Kane Brown burst onto the country scene like a wildfire, young, charismatic, and digitally unstoppable. He didn't get his start in smoky honky-tonks or roadside bars. Instead, he built his fan base on Facebook and YouTube, belting out covers from his bedroom and racking up millions of views. On the surface, it seemed like a modern-day country dream. But to Dolly Parton and other purists, something about Kane's rise and his sound just didn't sit right. It wasn't his voice that raised eyebrows. Kane can sing. The issue was the production wrapped around that voice, layers of auto-tune, synthetic beats, and tracks that sounded more R&B than country. His singles like Heaven and Lose It were polished to perfection, so much so that the emotion felt drained. Dolly, who famously once said, "If you can't sing it with a guitar on a front porch, it ain't real," reportedly viewed Kane's music as overproduced and undersold. What frustrated her, and many in Nashville, was the image Kane was marketed under, the new outlaw, a modern rebel with tattoos, piercings, and ripped jeans. But Dolly remembers the real outlaws, Johnny, Waylon, Willie, artists who bled into their songs, who defied industry norms with substance, not stylists. To her, Kane Brown represented a dangerous shift. Not because he's young or different, but because his style sent a message that raw talent no longer mattered as much as a radio-ready hook and a viral TikTok clip. That's not rebellion, it's resignation. Dolly's silence on modern stars has long been her strength, but in Kane's case, the silence broke, not out of spite, but out of sorrow for what's being lost. Kane Brown exploded onto the scene with a powerful social media following and a voice that should have been his golden ticket. But instead of leaning into raw, live vocal performance, something country legends like George Jones and Loretta Lynn built careers on, Kane embraced slick, overproduced tracks soaked in auto-tune and heavy digital effects. This didn't sit right with traditionalists, and it especially didn't sit right with Dolly. In a leaked comment shared among label reps, Dolly reportedly remarked, "If you can't perform it with just a guitar and a voice, is it still country?" Brown's hits like Heaven and Lose It sounded more like EDM light than anything you'd hear at the Grand Ole Opry. His concerts, filled with flashing lights and pre-recorded vocals, looked more like a pop tour than a country show. What made it worse was the marketing. Kane Brown was packaged as the next outlaw, a modern-day rebel in ripped jeans and tattoos. But to Dolly, real outlaws don't follow algorithms. They sing from the gut. The auto-tune wasn't just a tool. It was a crutch, a shortcut. And in a genre built on grit, that shortcut felt like betrayal. Dolly believes talent shouldn't be filtered. You can't fake heartache. You can't auto-tune pain. And when you try, you don't just lose fans, you lose the genre's soul. Kane Brown may be topping charts, but to Dolly, he's eroding the foundation with every radio-friendly beat. Next on Dolly's silent blacklist, Maren Morris. Yes, she has talent. Yes, she has a voice. But Dolly's problem isn't with her vocal cords, it's with the branding. In the words of one Nashville producer, Maren is more influencer than artist these days. And Dolly, who built a legacy on authenticity, sees that as a red flag. Morris burst into country with My Church, a soulful, faith-tinged anthem. But soon after, she pivoted hard toward crossover pop and a social media-heavy presence that often overshadowed her music. Instead of bearing her soul through lyrics, she turned to curated posts, sponsored content, and controversies that felt more like PR than passion. In an offhand backstage comment, Dolly allegedly noted, "She's more concerned with Twitter than the twang." That hurt, but it also resonated with fans who noticed the shift. While Morris positioned herself as a boundary breaker, Dolly saw her as someone using the country stage to chase a bigger brand, one where music comes second. It's not about politics or opinions. Dolly herself has spoken out on social issues, but she's always let the music lead. Maren, on the other hand, seems to lead with image, letting trends dictate her sound and story. And that, to Dolly, is a betrayal of what country music is supposed to be: unfiltered truth, not filtered selfies. Jason Aldean once stood as a bridge between rock and country, but to Dolly Parton, that bridge collapsed the moment he chose controversy over connection. His track, Try That in a Small Town, made headlines not for musical brilliance but for the political firestorm it ignited. Some praised it as patriotic, others slammed it as veiled aggression. But Dolly, she saw something deeper and darker. Insiders say Dolly was heartbroken that Aldean, once considered a reliable country mainstay, turned the genre into a battleground. She reportedly said, "Country music brought people together. Now it's being used to tear them apart." For Dolly, whose career crossed political, racial, and generational lines, this was unforgivable. Instead of telling stories that unite rural and urban America, Aldean lit a match in a room full of gasoline. To her, country isn't about stoking division, it's about shared humanity. Whether it was Dust Bowl struggles or heartbreak on a back porch, country music was a refuge from the noise, not fuel for it. By making headlines for outrage rather than art, Aldean changed the game, and not in a good way. He proved controversy sells, and now others are following his path. Dolly knows this trend won't just alienate fans, it'll destroy the inclusive spirit the genre once proudly held. For her, Jason Aldean's flamethrowing isn't brave, it's reckless. At first it was a novelty, then it became a symptom. The rise of TikTok country stars like Walker Hayes left Dolly deeply concerned. His breakout hit Fancy Like wasn't a heartfelt ballad or gritty story. It was a jingle about Applebee's, complete with dance routines. It dominated playlists, sure, but it also signaled a new era where virality, not value, dictated success. To Dolly, Hayes represents a trend that threatens to rot the genre from the inside. "It's not about the music anymore," she reportedly told a close friend. "It's about trends, memes, and momentary fame." Walker's sudden rise, fueled more by algorithm than artistry, is exactly the kind of shortcut Dolly has warned against her entire career. There's no shame in fun songs. Dolly's had plenty, but they always came with soul, depth, or wit. Fancy Like felt hollow, and worse, it lowered the bar. Now every aspiring country act is chasing 15 seconds of fame instead of 50 years of legacy. The real heartbreak? Hayes could be more. He has songwriting chops. But when the industry rewards viral silliness over genuine storytelling, it doesn't just fail the fans, it fails the future of country itself. Dolly believes country music deserves more than jingles with cowboy hats. It deserves meaning. Walker Hayes might be laughing all the way to the bank, but Dolly isn't amused. She's worried. While fans debated the decline, the real betrayal came from inside Nashville. The industry didn't just allow the dilution of country music, it engineered it. Record labels began shifting their priorities around 2015, funneling money into crossover experiments and viral hits. Instead of nurturing true storytellers, artists with substance were shelved, while social media darlings got stadium tours. Why? Because virality sells faster than legacy builds. Dolly has never been one to attack individuals, but she's been blunt about her disappointment in the suits. In a private dinner with fellow country legends, she allegedly said, "We handed them gold, and they traded it for glitter." That glitter came in the form of chart manipulation, autoplay strategies, and strategic collabs with pop artists. Radio stations, once the beating heart of country, also changed their tune. They phased out fiddle-heavy classics for electronically processed hits, all while claiming they were evolving with the times. But Dolly sees it differently. Not evolution, but erosion. The Nashville machine, once powered by grit and gospel, is now run by spreadsheets. For Dolly, this quiet complicity hurts more than any flashy star, because when the very institutions meant to protect a genre turn their back on it, what's left to save? When Dolly Parton talks about country music, she's not just talking about twang and lyrics, she's talking about heart. Her definition of real country isn't nostalgic or outdated. It's rooted in something timeless: honesty. A song should sound like a confession, not a commercial, and that's the standard she believes too many modern stars have forgotten. In interviews, Dolly often references artists like Merle Haggard, Tammy Wynette, and even Chris Christopherson, legends who bled into their lyrics. Their songs were born from broken homes, backwoods churches, and dusty roads. No gimmicks, no filters, just truth. She's not against evolution. Dolly herself dabbled in disco, rock, even EDM remixes, but she always kept the soul intact. Her issue is with artists who leave the soul behind for attention, who dress country, talk country, but sing like they're auditioning for Top 40 radio. She recently said, "You can dress it up all you want, but if it don't speak to the heart, it ain't country." That's Dolly's compass, and it rarely points wrong. Real country doesn't need to be sad or slow, but it must be sincere. In a world of image-obsessed music, Dolly believes sincerity is what will save or destroy the genre she gave her life to. While the industry chases algorithms and the stars chase fame, something remarkable is happening on the ground. The fans are fighting back. A growing movement of listeners, young and old, is turning away from mainstream country and rediscovering the classics. Dolly has taken notice. In a rare tweet, she praised fans for bringing the heart back to country, a nod to the growing popularity of traditional acts on streaming platforms and local stages. From grassroots festivals to online radio stations, fans are curating spaces where authenticity reigns. Vinyl is back. So are cowboy hats that aren't sold by fashion brands, and artists like Tyler Childers, Zach Bryan, and Cody Jinks, who write raw, unfiltered songs, are selling out arenas without ever cracking the top 40. It's a quiet revolution, and it's shaking Nashville. Dolly has expressed hope in this movement, saying, "Country belongs to the people who live it, not just those who sell it." That line stuck, because the fans don't just want to return to tradition, they want something real, something that smells like old wood, feels like heartbreak, and sounds like truth. The more the industry ignores this wave, the stronger it grows. And if anyone can spark a genre-wide reckoning, it's not a record label, it's the people in the cheap seats. Dolly Parton didn't build a legendary career just to watch country music lose its roots. Her recent remarks aren't a farewell, they're a battle cry. She's urging a return to what country music was always meant to be: raw, imperfect, deeply human. And while she's disappointed in the genre's current direction, she's far from giving up on it. Behind closed doors, Dolly is mentoring emerging artists who still write songs in notebooks, not TikTok comment sections. She's funding grassroots programs to bring music back to rural communities, where real country was born. She's investing in studios that record with minimal production, just voice and guitar. No auto-tune, no smoke and mirrors. But her biggest message? It's for you, the listener. Dolly believes fans hold the power to reshape the genre. Stop buying what doesn't feel true, she reportedly said. Stop streaming songs that say nothing. She's not asking for a return to the past. She's asking for a return to honesty, for music that sounds like it was written under porch lights, not in corporate boardrooms. If fans can demand that again, if they can support the right voices, country music might just find its soul again. In the end, Dolly isn't mourning the death of country. She's issuing a challenge. If you want to save it, sing along, loud, off-key, and from the heart. So now you know, Dolly Parton has finally spoken, and she's not mincing words. Her legacy wasn't built on glitter and gossip. It was built on grit and grace. And when she warns that the soul of country is under threat, the whole genre ought to listen. This isn't just about 5 artists. It's about an entire industry shifting away from its roots. But if Dolly believes it can still be saved, maybe there's hope. Hope in the fans, hope in the truth tellers, hope in the music that still makes you cry, laugh, or pick up a guitar. If you care about real country, about its past and its future, don't let this message fade. Like Dolly said, it's not dying, it's waiting. Hit that subscribe button. Share this video, and let's prove to Nashville that the real heart of country music still beats strong, and it's not giving up without a fight.